Good morning. Good morning. This is Valerie Leonard. I'm the founder of Nonprofit Utopia. I want to welcome you to today's live stream. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. And as you may or may not know, we have been focusing on marketing, nonprofit marketing, and especially with the focus on digital marketing for the month of November. We started off showing you how to do a marketing plan, which would give you, I guess, a global view of your organization. And then we started drilling down to get to be more specific. And today we're going to focus on SEO, which is, helping you to optimize your website presence. Make sure that you can rank highly, on your Google searches. All right. So without further ado, I am going to get into the presentation. If you're here, please post your name. Let us know where you're from, what you hope to get out of today's session. We're talking about SEO, which is search engine optimization, showing you ways that you can increase your ranking on Google search. All right. And you don't have to be a techie. God knows I'm not a techie. I'm going to share from my own experience, my own research, what I'm doing. So you don't necessarily have to worry about being a techie to really get this. We're basically focusing on ways that, common sense ways that you can use technology to improve your search engine results. And that's very, very important because the higher you rank on your search engine results, the more likely people are to come to your website. But once you get to the website, you have to think of ways to keep them there. So we're going to focus on strategies to maximize that. All right, so I'm going to ask you to post any questions or comments that you have in the comment box or the chat box. And at the end of the presentation, I'll go through all of them. Please let us know that you're here. Say hello. That'll make me feel really, really good. And I think it'll make others who are watching feel really good. I think we're developing a community outside the community. I'll call this our little suburb. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to go into the presentation. We've got a lot to cover. All righty. So bear with me as I share my screen and bring up the presentation. And again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys coming out. Okay, so our theme today is cutting through the noise using SEO. And as I indicated before, SEO is a way that we can maximize or enhance our presence so that we can be found on social media. And with over 1 million nonprofit organizations just in the United States alone, the competition is really, really fierce. So you want to think of ways that you can stand out, and we're going to help you with that today. All right, and before I get into our presentation, as usual, I want to tell you a little bit about Nonprofit Utopia. We are the ideal community for emerging nonprofit leaders, and emerging nonprofit leaders can be of any age. We're focusing on helping people to develop their leadership skills, whether they are coming in from a different sector and decide they want to be a board member, whether they want to or whether you want to start a new organization. If you are looking to be promoted and you feel like you need a few extra skills, that's why we're here. So we started the Nonprofit Utopia community, and we have created a safe space where people can innovate. They could talk about issues of concern to them. And our mission is to develop the next generation of ethical nonprofit leaders. And we do that a number of ways. We do it through consulting, we do it through coaching, as well as through courses. And I invite you to keep up with us. We are going to be rolling out the Nonprofit Utopia Academy. That's right, the Nonprofit Utopia Academy. We're going to be starting that in January. sharing with you ways that you can strengthen your organization and take a deeper dive. We're going to show people how to start new organizations, show them how to develop their leadership skills, develop strategic plans, keep abreast of some of the latest developments in the industry, and you really, really don't want to miss that. Our vision is to strengthen the global nonprofit sector by making sure that we strengthen the nonprofit leaders. So our goal is to train 50,000 ethical nonprofit leaders between now and 2033. And this live stream is one of the ways that we're doing it. Again, we do it through courses, we do it through coaching, we do it through consulting and the like. And about me, I have been consulting since about 2003. I have been on staff with UIC since 2004, focusing on a number of issues in nonprofit management, such as operations management, strategic management, proposal writing, and all of that good stuff. I am also on staff at Roosevelt University, teaching courses in social enterprise and helping businesses get to the point where they can launch if they so choose. And if you were here last week, and even if you weren't here, we shared last week how you can develop an effective social media strategy that will support your organization's mission. Remember, everything starts with mission. And then we shared with you the social media landscape, which channels may be most appropriate for your organization, how to develop a social media marketing strategy, how to engage stakeholders. And as we mentioned, engaging is more than posting, it's more than tweeting. It's actually engaging in a two-way conversation, or even more than two-way if you're lucky. And we also talk about how to channel this energy to attract volunteers, raise money, and attract partners and all that good stuff. So today we are going to build on those lessons learned, from the first week where we focused on developing your marketing plan, and from last week. And we're going to do a deeper dive into SEO. And what SEO is, I told you, it's a way of making sure that we can be seen on the internet, hopefully on the front page. And we're going to talk about what it is, why it's important. We're going to talk about how website crawlers work, so the Google search engines and how they work and how you can use them to your advantage. We're going to show you how to create content that lets your content be found by your ideal target. We're also going to show you how to create a positive user experience on your website so people don't, get off as soon as they get on because they don't know what to do next. And then we're going to show you how to build online authority and how to stand out from the crowd and improve your rankings. So what exactly is SEO? SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, and it's the practice of increasing both the quality and the quantity of website traffic. And not only are you looking to increase website traffic, but you're trying to increase exposure to your brand through non-paid or organic search engine results. That is, you want to make sure you're not trying to generate traffic exclusively through ads. And remember, SEO is just as much about people as it is about the technology. So you really, you want to keep your marketer's hat on, and even if you're not in marketing, so to speak, if you're a CEO of an organization, your job is marketing. If you are a secretary for an organization, your job is marketing. If you're a program manager, your job is marketing. Remember, branding is the entire experience that people have with the organization. It's not a logo. All right. So when we talk about SEO, we have to make sure that we understand what people are searching for online, the types of answers they're seeking, the words they're using, and the type of content that they want to consume. And again, making sure that they have a good experience once they get to our site. And SEO is also knowing the answers to these questions and how you connect to people who are searching online. All right. And once they get there, again, you got to make sure that you have something for them that will add value, that will make their lives better. All right. So did you know that of all the billions of US internet searches, only 2.8% of the people actually click on to paid advertising? All right, and that comes from SparkToro 2017. So that means it's extremely important to make sure that you're maximizing your opportunities for your content to be seen on Google. So now more than ever, you should be looking for ways to boost SEO or search engine optimization. Again, you want to figure out how you can end up on the front page when people go searching for keywords, right? So how do the search engines work? And when we talk about search engines, we're talking about Google, we're talking about Yahoo, we're talking about Bing, and other search engines. So they can work three ways. First of all, they crawl. And when we talk about crawling, they send out little bots, to go all throughout the internet and figure out, what's what. So they're looking for content all over the world, and they're looking for content for every URL that they find. So they're doing that on a constant basis. And after they find the website, find your content, then they go ahead and they index it, and they organize it, and organize it by category, and then they rank it to find out what would be most relevant to people who are searching for what you might have to offer. So it's important to develop keywords. And when we talk about keywords, we're talking about the words that you might use to search for something that you don't really know about, right? Or if you're trying to search for an organization to donate with, so you want to figure out what keywords you want to be associated with as an organization. All right. So obviously you want to be associated with nonprofit, but remember there are over 1.9, maybe about 2.3 million organizations just in the United States alone, let alone the world. So everybody wants to be ranked under nonprofit. Everybody can't be on that page. So how are you going to differentiate yourself? So think of other keywords that you might want to be associated with. It might be keywords that are important to your sector. It might be keywords that are important to your cause. And you play around with it and you figure out, which are the high value keywords that you want to be associated with. What words will also resonate with your supporters, be it prospective funders or what. And beyond that, you're going to also need to know the volume for each one of those words. And that'll help you understand how much it may cost if you want to do some ads to be ranked on those keywords, right? And then you also want to know the various keyword reporting tools that'll give you insight. And we'll talk about a couple of those today. And then, our last session is going to focus on tools that you can use, and we can actually do some demonstrations of some of the tools that can help you with SEO and other marketing issues. So for today, we're just going to share names of 2 SEO tools. And the first one is SEMrush, and the second one is Moz. They'll help you find target keywords and their volume, your website's current rankings, which sites are currently ranking for your target keyword, so you can actually keep up with the competition, keep up with what's going on in the industry, and see how you stack up. All right, and these tools can also be used to monitor your rankings over time, so you can see as you start using some of these strategies, what works, what doesn't work, and we'll define what works as you're meeting your goals and objectives. Sometimes your goals can be to have more visitors. Sometimes your goals can be more engagement. Sometimes your goals can be more conversions to turn visitors into volunteers, visitors into funders. So the first thing, you got to remember, content is king. So you got to create quality content. It makes no difference how many people come to your site. If you don't have good content, people are not going to stay. All right. So you got to make sure that you have information that's relevant, information that's going to add value, information that resonates with your ideal target audience. Sometimes your content might attract people, but it might not necessarily attract the people that you're looking for. So you need to develop content and target it in such a way that it attracts the people that you want to have on your website, people you want to have in your community. All right, so consider the types of content. The most common content is blog posts. So you want to keep your community and supporters engaged regularly by making sure that you keep your websites up to date. And a good indicator of whether or not your website is up to date is whether or not you have up to date blog posts. If you don't update your blog posts, people will assume that the organization is stagnant. It doesn't matter if you update the other pages. If your blog posts are out of date, then that sends a flag of caution. All right, so you want to share updates from your nonprofit on things like your campaign performance. And when I talk about your campaign performance, that could be an end of year campaign. It could be a Giving Tuesday campaign. It could be a campaign where you are doing a blood drive, whatever. All right, so you want to keep people up to date on how that's going. You want to share event recaps, beneficiary stories, tips for your fundraisers, and more. And you want to do this content in such a way that it drives users to donate. You want to drive users to volunteer and all of that good stuff. And you want to publish on a regular basis. And what this tells Google is that your organization is a trusted expert. Another type of content is video, and a good place to store that content is on YouTube. And you should remember that YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, so second only to Google. And you want to leverage that power by uploading your videos in an organized manner. And then you want to optimize those as well once you get there, right? So you want to also use video transcripts and keyword optimized descriptions to offer additional supportive text to your videos on YouTube, and that will increase your rankings. So in addition to posting, you got to make sure that there's significant relevant text and tags to make yourself more easily found. You want to share the videos throughout your website and on your social channels to increase engagement and drive traffic back to your website. And again, once you drive them there, you want to keep them engaged. And one of the ways you can keep people engaged is to make sure that your website is not all text. You want to incorporate visuals like photos, videos, data visualizations. And when we talk about data visualizations, we're talking about creating, I guess, little graphics that would demonstrate, a trend, that might demonstrate impact. And then you also might consider screenshots and other infographics into your content to engage readers. And other ways you can look at data visualizations is, if you work with developers or even import some of the data where you click a few buttons and, all of a sudden a graph will appear. All of a sudden a map will appear. Then you click on and it'll give you other information. And stuff like that can be extremely engaging for visualization purposes. All right, so once you have your content, and even before you develop your content, you have to always think about the best practices for on-page content. All right, so you want to help Google understand your pages and overall website by using on-page elements. And when we talk about on-page elements, we're talking about those things that happen directly on your website, and you should know that Google crawls on your website, and these on-page elements impact um, the way you're ranked and cataloged. On-page factors aid Google's understanding of your content and the types of keywords the content should rank for. These on-page factors can also impact how users, not just search engines, understand your pages as well. So a word to the wise, when you're doing your copy, make sure you think about people first. If sometimes people try to game the system by putting as many AdWords or keywords as possible, to a point where when you read their articles it doesn't make sense. I think it's more important, if you have to choose between whether or not Google finds it and whether or not people can read it, I think you should choose people being able to read it and sharing valuable content, and over time your audience will grow organically, and then Google will recognize that, and then they'll increase your ranking. All right, so here is a short list of those on-page elements I was talking about. Obviously, the first thing is titles. Your titles let you know what the story is about. So often we try to think of catchy titles, and sometimes those catchy titles don't necessarily um, have any of the keywords that you're trying to rank for. And then at the same time, sometimes if we're using keywords, our titles are not so catchy. So the trick is to try to find the delicate balance between an interesting and catching title and a key search word, right? And then you also need to be mindful of the headings. Once you're in the article or the post that you're developing, the headings, are like flags, and they, really structure. They structure the reading, and they're signposts, guideposts to tell you where to go next. So even if you don't have time to read all of the text, those titles will help you to know how to prioritize your reading. And then the next thing you want to focus on too is the meta descriptions. Now, at this point, you will probably need to work closely with your webmaster, making sure that you share descriptions that they can include, on the back end, and those descriptions will show up in the Google search. So, when you see a short paragraph that kind of describes the article or the website, those are your meta descriptions, and you want to make sure that you include meta descriptions that will help you to rank on SEO, but most importantly, help attract the people that you want to attract, be it funders, be it volunteers, etc. And then the next thing we need to concern ourselves with is the alternative text, or the alt text. And this describes the pictures for the search engines. The search engines can't necessarily see the pictures, but if you have a description, it'll describe the pictures for the search engines, and they can use that information to catalog your website as well as rank you on the search. And then finally, and this is just a short list, people who are really, really into this, can give you a much longer list, but, we're here to focus on people who are actually using the information at a higher level. And that's no disrespect to the technical people who actually do this stuff for a living. God knows we need technical people, and they help make the world go round. So, this session is really to help people like me, who are really not tech savvy, to really understand what's going on at a very high level so that they can begin, or so that you can begin, so that I can begin to improve search rankings. All right. So the final thing we're talking about is internal linking. Internal linking is a number of links within your website. So you might have one story, and then you might want to be able to link to stories that you've already written, and that creates a synergy amongst that cluster of posts, and that also can increase your SEO ranking. And if you have any comments, any questions, please feel free to post them. I will get to those after I go through this presentation. And if you have any experience with SEO, please share, some of your experiences, some of your challenges, some of the tricks that you use that have actually worked. And even if you haven't been using them long enough for them to be working, tell us what you're doing. All right. And Crystal Dyer, if you are in the audience, I want you to post your experience with Google AdWords. All right. And then you also want to make sure that you create a positive user experience. All right. Because Google prefers to rank websites that give their searchers the best experience. So what does that mean? That means making sure that you have a quick load time and page speed. Make sure that the navigation is intuitive. You can just look at it and kind of know how to figure out where to go, rather than look at it and have no clue as to what to do next. And then you want to make sure that your content is discoverable, meaning it's easy to locate the desired content on your website. All right, so it should take no more than 3 clicks for your visitors to find anything that they're looking for. And hopefully you'll create a situation where it becomes so engaging that they'll go deeper than the front page, or deeper than the original article that brought them. All right. And don't forget mobile. All right. So with mobile usage on the rise and now surpassing desktop usage, let me repeat, people are using their phones to do more searches now than they are using their computers. Google has opted to prioritize their mobile first index, meaning it's never been more important to have a mobile friendly website. So when you get a minute, make sure you know what your know how your website looks on mobile, but most importantly, go into the Google mobile first index and give your website an analysis. So Google has made it easy to understand how mobile friendly your pages are by offering a mobile friendly test. You can also look at Google Search Console, and that helps website owners to understand the various unique user experience issues as they relate to mobile. Keep an eye on those types of errors and work with your web developer or your webmaster or your webmaster to address them. And you also want to pay attention to off-page SEO. So your off-page or off-site SEO, that refers to ranking signals that occur outside of your own website. So that can include things like backlinks. So the backlinks are the links that come into your website from other websites. And hopefully, it's not a spam link. Hopefully it is a reputable website that other people will respect. And the more you have, reputable links coming back to your site, the higher you move into the SEO rankings. And one way to get backlinks is to reach out to publications and ask them, right? Ask them to be considered for inclusion for any upcoming articles or event calendars that they share. And obviously that would link back to your website. Another way you might want, another thing you might want to do is talk to other partners within your network, and together you guys can exchange links. So you can create, you can each create a page of links, resources, and you guys will together drive traffic into one another's site, and hopefully together you rise in the SEO rankings. And you want to make sure you include a link to your main website or your main campaign page or both, and help readers to, their readers to learn more, make a donation, or purchase tickets. So not only are you trying to help your readers learn more, but you're also trying to tap into the other audiences that these other websites have. So you want to make sure that you're speaking as if people don't know your organization, but at the same time you want your language to be inviting. And then another strategy you can use is to leverage local SEO. So local SEO is very critical. So especially if you are an organization that is serving a local community and you have walk-in traffic. So the local SEO includes creating or claiming your Google My Business listing to make sure your organization appears for branded keywords associated with your organization's name. And we'll be sharing an example of the second chance dog rescue. You want to also make sure that it's showing up in local searches where the keywords are used with localized qualifiers. So, like I said, this is very important if your organization is focusing on a specific target community. That really helps. All right, so you want to get a Google My Business, you want to get Google AdWords, and I believe Carlini is posting a link to help you know more about Google AdWords. We will have an expert on Google AdWords, God willing, sometime within the next month or so. We're still working on that, but we will also talk a little bit more about that when we focus on tools that you can use. So here's an example of local SEO. When searchers are looking for local dog rescues, Google displays Google Maps with various Google My Business listings, and each listing, if managed properly, displays the location, the contact information, reviews, questions and answers, photos, and more. And this is, pretty helpful. So not only do you have your own website, but you have this other page that appears in the margins. And Google also has an opportunity for you to develop your own Google website. So you can do that in combination with Google My Business, and all of those things together can help you to increase your ranking as well as increase engagement with prospective donors, prospective volunteers. So when it comes to reporting, Google offers a number of free tools. You can set up Google Analytics and the Google Search Console. And again, we will be focusing on tools that you can use for marketing in the next, for our last session. So we're going to spend the remaining part of this presentation focusing on building online authority, which is probably where you want to be, especially given the fact that you are, I'm assuming, with rare exception, I'm assuming that most of you are not techies. So regardless of what you know about technology, you can learn how to build your online authority, which is most important. All right. So being an online authority essentially means you're not only a thought leader on a specific topic, but that you've also taken the time to translate that knowledge in a meaningful way online. So when your organization makes posts, some of those posts should be given in a way that indicates that you're an authority. You don't want to just write, I'm an authority, but over time, if people see you writing and sharing information and advice on a certain topic, then you begin to automatically be perceived as an authority. So if you're the leader of a nonprofit or social enterprise, you've gone about it in such a way that search engines see it, your prospects and customers recognize it, and as a result, it helps you attract donors as well as revenue. And one of the easiest ways to build online authority is to one of the easiest ways to build a brand is to use online authority. All right, so you want to build trust, and people begin to get a feel for who you are based on what you write, whether or not they see you or not. The tone of your writing, the content of your articles, whether or not your articles actually provide some value, helping them solve a problem, that really helps to create trust. It's how people and search engines find you and determine your relevance. And over time, the cream rises to the top. So if you're trying to build your online authority, like most smart marketers are, these are the ways that you can use content to get the job done. So again, you want to use your content to build authority online, build your brand, as well as develop a rapport and trust with people even before they utilize your services or give you one dime. And you can see too that this is a developmental process. It takes a long time to develop that credibility. So one of the first things you should do is write and optimize for informational keywords. And some of the ways you can do this is, one, you can teach somebody how to do something. And when your advice works, you'll find that you'll start getting a growing audience. And then if you're optimizing for long tail informational keyword phrases, like for example, how nonprofits can engage with donors, you can also gain prominent placement in search engines to help solidify your authoritative status. So what I want to say here is, not only are you posting updates, about what your organization is doing, not only are you directing people to give, but you want to position your organization such that your organization is the go-to organization in terms of answering questions about a specific issue, in terms of being able to contribute to the overall health in the nonprofit space, and particularly within your sector. So you do that by writing, serious blog articles in addition to those other posts for updates. So if you're not one of those people or one of those organizations that has a large staff where they can focus on many, many different things, it's best to start off by focusing on what it is you know. So the very few topics that you know, if you only know one topic, you think of different ways to approach that very one topic so that people begin to associate your organization with that one topic. I just hope that one topic is not me, all about the organization. You want to make sure that you're creating a situation where you're providing impact to the whole sector and not just promoting your organization. And when you promote the sector, when you figure out ways to solve societal problems, as opposed to just focusing on your organization. And I'm not saying that you don't mention your organization at all, but when you focus on big problems, people begin to look at your organization as the thought leader. All right. And again, it's better to do a deep dive in specific content rather than, stretch yourself too thin. All right. I kind of touched on this before, but you want to make sure that you write on timely industry updates. So if you're in housing, you want to make sure that you include some blog posts or some Twitter posts that will indicate your perspectives of the industry, what's happening. You might want to start off with an article written by someone else and then put your own commentary either before, in the middle, and after it, so that you begin to position yourself right along with the thought leaders in the industry. So you want to think of yourself also as a journalist. You want to listen to your primary sources, research the important changes taking place in your industry, and tell your audience what news and changes mean for them. So again, it's not just sharing news, but it's also providing an opinion, and not an opinion just to the effect that you like this or you like that. You want to look at how that can really, really impact the sector for the better or for the worse. You want to filter out the junk and report on the news that matters to your audience. So you really want to be a curator, right? And this way you become a trusted source where people come to you. So other nonprofits who are looking to replicate sound practices and models, they come to you. And then when other organizations come to you, then obviously elected officials will notice, foundations will notice, and all of that activity feeds into creating authority for you, and then you move up in the SEO rankings. And 4, make it plain. So it's not about sounding smart, but being understood. And if you're talking at too high a level, or if you're writing at too high a level where people can't understand you, people are not going to come back to your website. All right. And then also make sure that it's reliable. If you find that you have misspoken, if you provided some information that wasn't accurate, make sure that you go back and correct it. Again, it's all about trust. Another way you can build authority is to publish case studies. So case studies, I guess another way of looking at it is lessons learned. So you can look at the work that you're doing as a nonprofit organization, look at some of the success stories, look at, so you start off with, some of the problems and you tell how your organization's programs and services have actually helped the client to solve the problem. So you want to use data, you want to use stories, you want to show concrete results that speak to the problems of your audience or causes that they fund or want to get involved in. And also make sure too that you take advantage of opportunities for your clients and partners to speak in their own words. So the case studies may tell a story, provide a narrative from your quote unquote objective perspective, but you also want to make sure you get testimonials and stories that your clients are telling, and together that makes a very compelling reason to come back to your website. Another way to build authority is to host webinars, Zoom meetings, and live streams. And this will let your prospective stakeholders, your current stakeholders, really get a feel for who you are as an organization. They can put a personality behind the name of the organization that also becomes your brand. And it's also a way too to showcase your capabilities. And if you don't feel comfortable in front of a camera, you might also consider doing a Twitter chat and do that in real time. And that lets you also share your personality without necessarily sharing your face if you're too shy. Another way to develop authority is by writing long form content. So that gives people a really good way to get a sense for how deep of the knowledge the organization has. So you can write white papers on a topic of interest in your particular sector. You can write ebooks that help people to replicate some of your own successes. And hint, hint, you can also sell those ebooks as additional revenue. You can write how-to guides, lessons learned, and use case studies, right? And the more in-depth analysis you give, the more you position yourself as a thought leader in the industry. And that's really where you want to be, because once you become a thought leader, then all of a sudden resources come to you. You don't have to work quite as hard to attract funds. You don't have to work quite as hard to attract partners. You don't have to work quite quite as hard to attract employees or even clients. Plus, this type of downloadable content not only helps you generate more leads for fundraising and volunteers, but it's also a content format that's easily shareable on social networks, and that helps you extend your reach. So you can use this content to build your lists. You can use the content, again, to position yourself as an authority. Another way to build authority is to be a guest blogger. Write stories on other people's blogs and tap into their particular audiences, and that helps you expand your reach. And then it also helps you to align yourself with others that you aspire to be like. People automatically assume that if you're in that space with person XYZ, then you must be as quote unquote capable as person XYZ. Remember, birds of a feather flock together. You also want to generate inbound links to your site and give your site more online authority. As we mentioned before, you want to create inbound links, and those are very, very critical to your authority. The more reputable sites that are tapping into or connecting to your site, then the more likely you are to move up in the rankings, the more likely you are to be perceived with more credibility. And the more inbound links you have, the more search engines consider you an authority too. All right. And number 10, stay active on social media. And you can use social media to actually drive traffic to your website. You can use social media to engage. And as I said before, engaging is not just posting. Engaging is actually having a back and forth conversation with people in your space. And and finally, you want to be a reliable source. So if you do this stuff consistently over time, make sure that you're posting regularly. I would suggest that you try to post, no less than once a month, but ideally, if you can post once a week. If you have the staff, you should do it once a day. All right, once a day. I'm talking about for your blog, for your social media. Obviously, you should do that once a day, but blog posts often take a little bit more time. So if you find yourself short-staffed, try to do it at a minimum once a month, but kind of let people know that it's your monthly post. But I would shoot for at least once a week, if I don't have the bandwidth to do it every day. All right, so you want to be a reliable source. You want to make sure that your information is truthful, is reliable. You want to make sure that it doesn't have stuff that they don't want to read. If you have stuff in there that they don't care about, you will know immediately, because they will stop subscribing to your email list. So that's a really quick gauge of whether or not your stuff is relevant. And you just want to remain focused on providing the best information you can for your audience and provide value, right? So when we talk about providing value, we're really talking about looking at who our target audience is, and we need to segment that market. That market needs to be segmented by whether or not they're a client, potential partners, whether they're a funder. So look at who they are to you. So look at all of your stakeholders, and you may have to communicate a little bit differently with each segment, but understand who they are, what they do. Look at what their pain points are. What keeps them awake at night. What are they worried about? Look at what they aspire to, right? Look at the questions that they're asking in terms of how they can get to the next level. That could be the next level in fundraising. That could be for those of you who are in advocacy. How do we get Congress to move, on a piece of legislation? So you have to really understand what it is people aspire to, what makes them tick, and then you need to craft your blog content such that you are responsive, helping them meet their goals, helping them alleviate their pain point, and then they'll come back over and over. Alrighty, so this concludes the presentation. If you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you have any experiences, please feel free to share those, in our comment section. I'm going to leave this presentation now and then see what questions and comments that we have. If you want to follow up with me later, you can email me at ValerieFLeonard@nonprofitutopia.com. If you are a member of the Nonprofit Utopia community, we can continue this conversation on the website platform. You can share any questions or concerns that you might have. You can set up appointments and we could go into depth. I think Carlini has done an excellent job of sharing resources that you can use immediately to help you with your marketing. All right, so if you have any questions, please let us know, and we would also love to have you as a member. All righty, so I am going to stop sharing. Alrighty, so if there are any questions, if there are any comments, please share below. Alrighty, from Carlini, here's a link to the Google Grants link, and I suggest that you copy and paste. There's no way you're going to be able to remember all of that, but just copy it and paste. Go to the Google Grants link. Again, we're going to have someone who can speak, with authority on how you can use that, and we'll talk about it just a little bit when we go over the tools that you can use. So if you have any questions or comments, please share them now or forever hold your peace. We're about to wrap up, and I want to say thank you so much for joining us. Again, I want you to be mindful. We're going to be rolling out Nonprofit Utopia Academy in January. We're going to be sharing classes where you can take a deep dive into a number of topics in nonprofit management. All righty, so join us Friday at 10 o'clock. We're going to be talking about nonprofit storytelling just in time for Giving Tuesday. All righty, and before we go, Leslie Page Piper, webinar was so appropriately comprehensive. Thank you, Leslie. I really, really appreciate that because you are one who is very much into data analysis and you're a very detail-oriented person. So thank you very much. All right, so without further ado, seeing that there are no questions, no comments, I am going to end this live stream. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you want to see the replay, go to our YouTube channel. Go to YouTube and search for Nonprofit Utopia. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.